Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just waiting to admit some people into the Zoom, and then we will get started with you, Dr. Hashim. So give it maybe a minute and begin when you can.
So tell me, Muad, when you want me to start.
Sure, a few more minutes. I think people are connecting to audio. Is there anyone else left in the waiting room, or could we get started for now? And as people come in, we can admit them.
People are still kind of joining.
Okay, let's wait a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe one more minute.
Sure. Thank you all for joining and for your patience. Abby, why don't you tell us when you think it's getting time to speak, but no pressure. So give it time until people until we've included everyone that's joining and they're connected to audio.
Oh yeah, okay. Here. Sure.
Thank you all for joining us. Abby, how are we doing on the waiting room? Is there more people?
We're probably good to go.
Yeah.
Dr. Hashim, do you want to mute your phone until we begin just for... Thank you. Sorry, Abby, what did you say?
We're good to go.
We're good to go. Excellent. So Dr. Hashim, please take it away.
Okay, just give me a few seconds. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Hashim Mubarak. I'm the president of Syrian Emergency Task Force. I have the pleasure of being with this fine group of people. And thank you everybody for taking some time during the fasting month of Ramadan to listen to our story. You will hear from experts here about the situation in Syria and how we can help. First of all, I want to introduce quickly myself. My name is Hashim Mubarak. I happen to be a cardiologist in Panama City, Florida. I have the pleasure and honor to work with Syrian Task Force. We have the board members, Dr. Muhammad Khawam, brother Abu Mu'tasim, and we have a great executive director, Muad Mustafa, who work 24/7 tirelessly. We have the director of outreach, Natalie Larson. She's a great person, great to work with her. We have Jerry Adams, who was one of the founders of Wisdom House. You'll hear from him later on. We have great people working with us, Abby, Veronica. I cannot thank them enough. This is a very, very important thing. Since the beginning of this 21st century, this is one of the worst calamities. Probably Yemen and Syria are the worst disasters, and we are going to concentrate today on Syria and how the people are living. If you call this living, it's very unfortunate. And we have really, I'm very impressed, and I cannot appreciate them enough, Jerry, Natalie, and other people who are not Syrian, not even Muslims or Americans. They are really doing a great job. They are spending their time and efforts and money to help those people, Syrian refugees and Syrian displaced people. So without further ado, I'm gonna let the next thing will be, I think Sister Rasha will recite some Quran. So please go ahead and listen to her.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم ومن يغفر الذنوب إلا الله ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا وهم يعلمون أولئك جزاؤهم مغفرة من ربهم وجنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ونعم أجر العاملين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hasten to follow the path that leads to forgiveness from your Lord and to the garden, which is as vast as the heavens and the earth, and has been prepared for those who are pious, for the pious people, those who spend their wealth freely in the path of Allah, alike in prosperity and in adversity, those who control their anger and those who forgive other people. Allah loves such people very much. Those, when they commit a sin or a bad deed, or they wrong their own souls, they remember Allah and instantly ask for Allah's forgiveness. And who forgives the sins but Allah? So, those who do not knowingly persist in the wrong while they know. These are the ones who will be rewarded with the forgiveness from Allah and with gardens beneath which rivers flow, and they will reside therein forever. And how excellent is the reward of those who do good. May Allah make us all among them. Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Abby Stracely. I'm the Director of Development for the Syrian Emergency Task Force. It is my honor to welcome you to our special event for Ramadan, Imagine One Day of Ramadan in Syria. First, I would like to start by introducing a video created by the Shamlan Foundation. The Night Shamlan Foundation has been supporting SETF for the last few years. And on the 10th anniversary of the Syrian Revolution, after a decade of atrocities, the Shamlan Foundation created this powerful video to commemorate the anniversary. Please watch.
Hi, I'm M. Night Shyamalan, and my wife and I, we have a foundation and we support leaders from around the world. And my wife went to the Holocaust Museum, and she came back and said, hey, I want to support this leader. His name is Muaz Mustafa, and he runs an organization called the Syrian Emergency Task Force, and they do work in Syria. And she started to tell me what they do, and I said, wait, I'm hesitant about Syria. I don't know if our foundation should get involved in it. That seems like a really messy thing. And I was reacting to something. I was reacting to a narrative that had been told to me over and over again, and I didn't realize it. It was a narrative that there was a civil war going on in Syria that was so messy and so violent and so entrenched, there was no way that you could get involved in that area. But I just realized that I was being told a story by somebody. Who was that somebody? Now, here's the thing. I make movies, and we try very hard to pull the storyline out that is the most connected to the audience, the thing that will make you come to the movie theaters. That's the story we try to pull out and tell you and say, hey, this is the movie. This is the story. And then you feel connected to that story, and then you come to the movie. Well, in this case, the person telling the story wants just the opposite. They don't want you to come. They don't want you to get involved. So the person telling me the story of Syria is telling me a story so that I have that reaction, so that I don't want to get involved. And the person telling the story is Assad. And he's telling me the story of this violent, messy civil war that I should stay away from. But really, after learning what's actually happening in Syria, I realized there's an actual amazing story underneath it all that I'm very, very connected to. And this is the story I want to talk to you about. was children that start this story. These children, inspired by us, inspired by America, went and spray painted on a wall the words freedom and your turn's next, doctor, referring to Assad. They were arrested. These children were tortured. And more protests rose, and more children protested. The country as a whole started to rise up. You had one city, then another, and they faced the military with flowers, and it was peaceful protests for as long as they could go. Opinion was turning against Assad. So much so, it was inevitable it was going to end with the toppling of the dictator, and that's where it should have ended. Assad started telling his story to avoid the narrative of a group of families and children fighting for freedom to not get to us, to not get to the world. He immediately painted them as Muslim radicals and began the story of the civil war in Syria, because eventually he would have been toppled and things could have worked out in the way that it should have if Russia hadn't gotten involved and Iran hadn't gotten involved. Both of them got involved for their own reasons, none of them good. Then ISIS sees a vacuum in all of this mess and decides to come into Syria, and Assad loves this. He loves this because now he can tell the Western world he's fighting our enemy. And that creates even more confusion in the mix. And so this story of this messy civil war is now entrenched, and the world steps away. Atrocities are happening on a scale we can't imagine, and people are getting slaughtered. Here we are, 10 years later. And how did this never again moment happen? How is it still going on? Well, it's because of the story that we were told. We shouldn't forget about the real story, about children fighting for freedom. Children have disappeared. I had gotten a chance to spend time with Caesar, who was a police photographer who took all the photos took 50,000 photos of victims of Assad's torture and brought them out of the country to show the world. And as I sat here, he actually showed it to me in this room. I was chilled and moved, and I felt very much connected to those kids, that their story was my story. The story of my dad coming to America here to start a new life, to dream about freedom for himself and his family, that they were dreaming the same dreams. Those kids could be me. They actually even looked like me. I felt very connected to them. I live in Philadelphia, the home of the Liberty Bell and the Declaration of Independence, those symbols of American democracy. And I see in the Syrian people, even after 10 years of atrocities, I see in them that spirit, that wish for democracy that defines America. I see them as an extension of our story, and our story and their story are interlaced. People fighting for freedom and democracy. And children started it. We inspired those children. And those children should inspire us right back. That's not a complicated story to hold on to. Children fighting for freedom.
I would now like to introduce Jerry Adams, co-founder of the Wisdom House Project and advisory board member of the Syrian Emergency Task Force.
Thank you, Abby. Wow, what a powerful video. First, it's an honor to be part of today's presentation. For the past 5 years, I've had the honor of leading the working group in Central Arkansas that has been supporting both the Wisdom House and the Women's Center. For me, it goes back to March of 2016, over 5 years ago, meeting Muaz Mustafa at an event at the University of Central Arkansas. UCA invited distinguished alumni to come back for a TEDx talk, and the event where Muaz spoke, I visited. He spoke about his early life in Damascus, his family's immigration to the US, his upbringing in Arkansas. After college, he worked for both the US Representative Vic Snyder as an intern and on the staff of the US Senator Blanche Lincoln, and then went on to start the Syrian Emergency Task Force, and it's over 10 years old. Our fateful meeting was the start of a life-changing path for me and others involved with the start of the Wisdom House and our support for an amazing school for orphans and the subsequent development of the Women's Center. Our work in the US is very straightforward and very, very important. The real heroics is focused on the tenacious leadership of the teachers and staff of the Wisdom House and the Women's Center. From the beginning, lives have been changed in Syria. Over 600 children have been educated through the Wisdom House, and probably close to 500 women have been taught valuable vocational skills from the Women's Center. Both the Wisdom House and the Women's Center have been forced to move. The original village where they were located was leveled, bombed, and unusable. The heroism that has been part of rebuilding both the Wisdom House and the Wisdom Center is obvious in the fact that both have been relocated, reopened, and working today. Our job with the working group has been to financially support them, educate our communities on the horrific issues that Syria is facing, as well as let everyone connected with the Wisdom House and the Women's Center know that we love them and care about their future. The Letters of Hope Project has been a critical part of how that message of love and hope has been communicated. Against major odds, we are making a difference, and it's been with your help that this has happened. You will see some great videos. You've already seen an amazing video, and you'll see pictures of children and women who are part of this collective effort. And we do not have an end in sight, but we cannot relax. We must continue to support as we have for the past 5 years and grow that support. The need is substantial. Our working group is determined to be part of the Wisdom House and the Wisdom and the Women's Center until we are not needed. And their world is safe. And they have a clear future. Bless them and bless all who have supported SETF. Abby.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I would now like to hand it over to our Executive Director of the Syrian Emergency Task Force, Muaz Mustafa, to speak about the advocacy work of our organization, as well as the aid we provide to Rukban IDP camp. It's an IDP camp in southern Syria where SETF is the only organization that provides aid and assistance to over 10,000 IDPs.
Thank you, Abby. And thank you for all of you that have joined us today. We really appreciate your time and your patience with us. And thanks, Jerry, for making me cry right before I have to talk. So, but you know, I think it's emblematic of how connected we all have been to our families in Syria. That's how we view them. And that's how we view all the people in Syria, both internally displaced, refugees, or in regime-held areas, that we're advocating on their behalf. And our advocacy work, which I don't want to get into too much detail in today, focuses on a simple thing that's not controversial and that's not hard to support. It's to end the killing in Syria, to end the war in Syria, to end the air forces that are bombing and targeting hospitals and schools on purpose, not as collateral damage, and to end the torture to death of men, women, children, and elderly that's happening regularly, and to end the besiegement of so many people, including in Rukban camp, where we have 10,000 civilians, all internally displaced, that had to escape Assad and ISIS. And now on the border inside Syria, but on the border with Jordan and Iraq, they have no way of support. The Jordanian and the Iraqi government have closed off their borders. The Russians, Iran, and the Assad regime have completely besieged them. And for those 10,000 people, half of them are children under 12. There is no organization, no UN organ, no World Food Program or World Health Organization or anything operating in there. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, only the Syrian Emergency Task Force works regularly and in a sustained way in Rukban, where we try as much as we can in breaking the siege and providing baby formula and food and flour and oil and necessities just to survive to those most in need in the camp, as well as the Hope Pharmacy. And here we have Dr. Seema Jilani and then other members of the team that are part of a group that are trying to figure out how to make this pharmacy as close to a clinic as we can, because there isn't a single doctor in this camp. In this no-cost pharmacy, again, we bring in whatever medicines we can manage to bring in there. And it alone, this pharmacy, which only started maybe 6 months ago or so now, provides 80%, covers 80% of the camp, has on a slow month 900 patients, and every night or every day 40 patients that are seen there. So it's something makeshift that we've had to put together, but it's because these people have nobody else. In addition to the regular food drive and any other aid that we can bring in there. And so with that, I will let you watch this very short video about our work in Rukban, or about Rukban itself and its situation.
السلام عليكم يا سيدي يا اخواتي، تعرفوا كل حاله هالمطر مخيم ضعيفين وعلى الله وعليكم يا سيد، تعرفني والله يحب خبز ومي وشيء يعني هيك قليل الثاني بركته الخبز ما مطولها وفتت هالرسالة كيف هالعيالنا ما معنا والله يا سيد، تعرف انت يعني وعجبنا يا معاقب، تعرف على قد الحال والله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. احنا هون في مخيم الركبان حاصرين، لا أدوية، لا قوة، لا حليب لهالأطفال، مواد غذائية، مواد أطباء خالص، يعني لا طبابة، لا أدوية، كل شيء ما في موجود عندنا. بنتي عمرها 4 شهور 5 شهور، طول شلون حلتها، يا لا حليب لا شيء، يعني بدنا حليب، بدنا أدوية لهالأطفال، بدنا احنا الكبار مرضانين، يعني لا دواء ولا الخلط لا شيء، مرضانين يعني وما في وسيله اننا يعني نشتري ادويه وبالنار، وما في موجود شيء والله كثير حالتنا سيئه بهالمخيم. يا اهل الخير اللي بي الله يجزيكم والله يجزيكم الخير، اللي تقدروا عليه ابعثوا لنا اياه، يعني اطفالنا والله نشفى، لا ادويه لا حليب لا شيء، ويعطيكم العافيه.
واحنا مستشفين خير، ونريد منكم خير، ونريد منكم ماي، ونريد
Beyond our aid to this forgotten camp, we also provide 1,000 families in Northwest Syria with the leadership of members of our team, including AM, who's on the call with us today, bread on a monthly basis, and a very short video as well describing the bread drive. I don't know if it's just for me, but the video seems to be stuck, Veronica.
Let me try again.
It was working fine for me, at least.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then let it play through. It might have been just for me. I think it's only 30 seconds. So
Yeah, it's 45 seconds. So start again.
Thank you, Moaz. Now I would like to introduce the Director of Outreach and Humanitarian Aid, Natalie Larson, to speak about the Wisdom House School for Orphans and Tomorrow's Dawn Women's Center.
Thank you so much, Abby, and thank you all for being here today with us. It's been something I've really looked forward to, is reconnecting with all of our friends in our Central Arkansas community. And thank you. I mean, so many people on this call have really been hands-on with the Wisdom House ever since at least I joined in 2016. So again, I'm Natalie Larson. I'm based in our Arkansas office. I joined SETF in 2016 after teaching at a high school for 5 years. And my school closed down. I learned about SETF from Moaz, and I felt a really strong pull to work for this cause. And I really felt like it was God telling me that this is where I should be. And other teachers thought I was crazy. What? You're going to stop teaching and become an advocate for Syria? What? And my dream was to see cameras in the hands of kids. I taught photography. And at this point, we've empowered, gosh, we probably sent 50 cameras to Syria. And now they're in the hands of orphans and different families. And so it's really amazing, alhamdulillah, what you can do with so little for the people who need it the most and appreciate things the most. And so what I'd like to do is just let you know what I've learned in my role through this. When I first started working with SETF is when we started the Wisdom House Project. And the first thing that I did was get connected with the English teacher, Mumina. She's about my age. And at the time, we've grown old in working with SETF, but at the time we were both in our mid-20s. We're both teachers, and she's young, and she's taking care of 100 students in an underground space in Idlib province. Even their playground was underground. So this is when the Wisdom House working group decided to start supporting these teachers. And so I got to know Mumina, talked to her every day for the last 5 years. And she's taught me so much, not just about life, but about even my faith. She's strengthened my own faith because of her gratefulness, her attitude, and her just constant spirit. And I know, I mean, she emulates light. And it just shows she's the reflection of the Syrian people that I've gotten to know. And so I have the impossible job of being a voice for these amazing people on the ground in Syria, for the Wisdom House teachers and for all the little kids who are sending us constant messages of, we love you, please, you know, we want to be safe. And so they're constantly in touch with us. Now our whole team and many students around really the globe at this point have gotten to know about Syria through the eyes of these teachers and through these orphans that we take care of at the Wisdom House. So at this point, we've had 5 classes of students graduate from the Wisdom House. So like Jerry said, about 600 little kids, 3 to 5 years old, a school that they would not have, they wouldn't have school if they didn't have this Wisdom House. You know, with the bus that we support for them, it gets them safely to and from school. We're actually trying to buy a new bus right now. But, you know, it's just been quite the journey, not only for myself, but my family as well. Hi, Mom, I see you. And I was going to mention that I've seen not only myself grow in my faith because of my close work with the Muslim community, not just in Syria, but in Arkansas and DC and Virginia, and the people I've gotten to meet through this work have been so inspiring. And I now have to say, inshallah, or God willing, if I say I'm going to do something, I mean, it just works and it just makes sense. And I think even my mom, she started studying, you know, in her Bible classes even more after being, I think, Mom, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she was inspired by the beautiful, you know, the beautiful faith that people have. And she's gotten to know Mumina and her family. You know, we send each other like family photos. But for 5 years, the teachers and the students at the Wisdom House have been under constant threat. And from 2016 to 2020, they were displaced multiple times, I think 4 times total. They ran away from their homes because of bombardment, and then they would return when it stopped. And so, you know, these children were very, very much aware of the sounds of bombs, even while they're at school. And from the teacher's point of view, it's just horrific to hear Mumina talk about, what do I do when there's sounds of bombs and I'm in a room full of children and they're scared? You know, I'm not, you know, it's just put normal people in these horrific situations. But from what I've learned is that they've risen to be the most resilient and inspiring people in the world. And I can only hope that I can help be a microphone for that. And I think everyone who joins our team is doing the same thing. And that's been amazing. By the way, for those of you who are in touch with SETF, we've grown significantly this year in terms of students and fellows and people working with us and helping to ultimately keep our beneficiaries on the ground safe and relieve their suffering. So in 2020, January, there was a horrible bombardment of our town in Idlib, where we not only were taking care of the Wisdom House, but we also had committed to taking care of a women's center, where we teach vocational classes to women, mostly who are widowed by war. And this is run by another extraordinary woman very close to me named Rasha. And in 2020, they were displaced for the final time because their town was completely destroyed by bombs. In one day, there was 800 airstrikes on their tiny rural town in southern Idlib. So during early 2020, our entire community at the Wisdom House and Women's Center were part of a massive displacement in Idlib, where the regime took 1/3 of the province. And so along with 500,000 other people, they were displaced into the Wisdom House is now in the northern countryside of Aleppo. And now the Women's Center is in northern Idlib, close to the Turkish border. So all of these communities had to be broken up, but the one thing they want more than anything is to go home. Now, when I ask Mumina, or when I asked her every single day, are you okay? How is everything? She says, Alhamdulillah. I mean, every time, that's her response. And I'll have to say, no, please tell me, what do you need? I have to, you know, really get specific, because she is just so content with what she has. She says, you know, we have God, we have our kids, thank God. And so even just that exchange is just, I mean, that's so inspiring. I mean, I think I would probably be screaming and crying, but so I myself have grown so much just from my connections to this amazing Muslim community. And I can only hope that I can spread the word about how amazing these people that I've grown to know and love are. We started a Letters of Hope campaign in 2016 after Aleppo, while Aleppo was being taken. And we realized that the Syrian people, especially the kids, really needed to see that there were people out there who loved them. And so every few months, we actually take bags of these letters of hope, and then we stuff as many toys and crafts and equipment, donated cameras, anything small enough to bring in a bag. We take it all the way to the border. I actually just came back from the Syrian-Turkish border 2 weeks ago. Myself and a fellow teacher who's involved with the Wisdom House were able to bring 5 big bags filled with all kinds of the best, everything a teacher would love, you know, paper and cutters and you know, paper cutters and markers and pencils, and they love slime and what are they called? Pipe cleaners. Just the funniest googly eyes. I mean, the things you never would think that was a necessity, that's what they ask for. And so we have been able to educate the general public and the non-Muslims and the non-Syrian communities about who is Syria through the Wisdom House and through these children. And so thank you all for joining us today. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I do want to show a video of the Wisdom House and Women's Center that kind of tells a little bit about their story. And so I hope that you enjoy.
نمبر 1. ايش حابة تصيري؟ أنا بدي أصير أنسي. بدك تصيري أنسي؟
Children should be safe to go to school in Syria. Moms should be able to get their children to go out the door to have a regular day there, as they should here in America.
Thank you for everyone who stand with us, and I am sending a great thank for those students who sending these letters. When we receive these letters, we feel that there are who care of us, who want really to help us. Thank you, Mr. Visa. I love you.
Thank you so much, y'all. And I'm just going to finish with, we at SETF have now graduated hundreds of Muslim orphans, and we continue to provide education to displaced children through the Wisdom House, as well as training and empowering women. Just this year, when we reopened the Wisdom House, Mumina gave a party to the students, and the teachers enjoyed cake for the first time since before the war, and the kids enjoyed cake for the first time ever. And so that just shows how important our help is. Mumina also lets us know that our emotional support through letters of hope and just being there and continuing to be there and not forgetting about them is just as important as any kind of money that we ever provide. And so thank you all so much for being here. And I really appreciate you guys. And it's an honor to talk to you today, and Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Omar Al-Shukri. He's the Director of Detainee Affairs for SETF. He's also a former detainee and speaks around the world to tell the story of all those that have gone missing in Assad's dungeons.
Thank you, Abby, and assalamu alaikum, everybody. And thank you for everybody who presented. Jerry, Natalie, Abby, Moaz. That was beautiful to watch. I seen some of these videos earlier, but it's always beautiful to see them again. May is the month that is most of my siblings are born. So I have so many birthdays in May, but May 2nd, which is today, is supposed to be my father's 58 years old birthday. He was killed by the Assad regime in Syria in May 2nd, 2013, when they ethnically cleansed our town, Al-Baida, a small town on the Syrian coast where it's surrounded with pro-regime people. So they attacked, they killed everybody they met. Everybody and everything, actually, they met. So they killed the people they met, and then they burned. They killed the animals, and they burned the trees, the greenhouses, and all of that. And during that time, I was in prison. I was told by a cousin who was arrested and brought to my cell. I was told that my father was killed. And a few months later, he told me that my brothers were killed as well. And a month later, he told me my entire family died in a massacre in my village when they killed my father and brother, that then burned the house, and obviously everybody died. And I was in prison with 3 different cousins. All of them were siblings: Bashir, Rashad, and Noor. Noor was in my age. She was 17. Rashad was 3 years older, and Bashir was 5 years older than me. And we were detained for no reason. We were at home, and they attacked the house, and they detained us with other people. They actually basically were attacking and arresting people for being young. Can you imagine that reason? Just for being young, because they expect this young generation to be, raising against them, demonstrating, going to the streets. So we were arrested for that, and we were tortured. And I remember it was March when when I lost my first cousin, Rashad, who died next to me, and 1 year later, his brother Bashir was my favorite friend, and he meant a lot to me, and he was my mental strength during my time in prison. And he died in my arms when I was carrying him back from the bathroom. He could not walk anymore. The torture broke his bones, and he could not walk. He could not make it anymore. I had to carry him to the bathroom every day where we get tortured. And then the last time I carried him, he died while I was walking with him in my arms. And I was told Noor, I was on the 6th floor. I was told she was dead as well. And I was smuggled out of prison after 3 years. I never thought I would make it out. I always thought I will die in prison, but I was very hopeful to have the best possible life in prison. Then I will die there. It was so difficult to imagine getting out of there because of the brutality we went through on a daily basis. I got out of prison, and I was surprised to receive a phone call from Noor, my cousin, my female cousin who died with me in prison. I was like, she said, "Hi, Omar, we're glad you're alive and you get out," because they were told I was dead too. And I was surprised to talk to someone who was tortured with me, someone who I cared about. We tried to, during our time in prison, we tried to find strategies how to not give them that false confession that can lead us to execution. And seeing her alive while I carried her siblings dead in my arms, it brought me some hope back. It's easy to think, well, a prisoner get out of prison and you go back, well, you don't have torture anymore, you don't have starvation anymore, now you're back to an awesome life. It's not easy. Those people who get out of prison, they get into struggle. They don't feel they belong to the society, that they don't feel the society cared enough about them to bring them out of prison. Because when I was in prison, I thought the entire world is fighting to get me out of prison, right? Because I tried to have hope somewhere. And I was surprised when I get out and very little people cared. I mean, caring is not just talking about it or knowing about it. Caring is taking actions. And I noticed that very few people were taking actions. So I decided on my own to do public speaking because I felt if I don't do something, I will go into depression. And I did this public speaking, and I was invited to Brown University in the US, and that's how I met Moaz. Moaz and I met in person, and he introduced me to the task force. And I did not like organizations because I felt most of the organizations, they have so high costs for doing this and this, bureaucratic system and all of that. When I met Moaz, he changed my view on that. The organization at that time, I met Natalie, Anna, Moaz, few people. It was much smaller than now. And they've been doing a great job, and they made me belong to something because I was doing everything on my own. I was doing the public speaking on my own, caring about the political detainees on my own, everything on my own. And that's a trauma you live through on a daily basis. It's not just standing on a stage. And if I enjoy public speaking, I enjoy it, but there is a trauma behind that. And being part of something bigger, something that creates value, we actually doing something. And I can see through the task force, all the projects we managing, those projects deliver results. We can see. That's why we're getting more people who want to work with the task force, despite we have no salaries to give to people. We don't have salaries. We have this very small budget, but what we have is we have results. So when you come to work, you actually you get empowered on a daily basis of, okay, look at the change I'm making. There is small changes I'm doing every day that making somebody's life better. A kid in Syria is smiling. A woman is able to feed her kid, and all of that brings value. And this young generation is looking to create value somehow or anywhere. So that's the salaries actually. So we give the best salaries people can have, which is that value creation. And that's instead for being on my own with so little impact in the world, becoming part of an organization, that made my voice heard. I managed through the task force to be on CNN, to be featured in New York Times, Washington Post. That's important to bring awareness for the Syrian case, because the more we personalize the stories, the more people it will reach. And when I think about the great work the task force is doing, and I think about the budget, it's kind of funny. How does this budget actually support this theme? Because it's not limited to the budget we got. So I know Moaz is the first person to donate the most of our fundraisings, right? Like, right? And it's like he even take care of most of propaganda camp stuff on his own, from his own money. It's crazy. Those people on this team, they care, and there's so many people we need to take care of. There's so many Syrians who need to feel safe, because let's say I get out of prison and I felt there's nobody can protect me or take care of me or use my experience, my knowledge about prison. I will be lost, and I will be afraid to challenge the Syrian regime on my own, right? And I managed to speak out because of the support I had from the task force. Imagine how many Syrians have witnessed crimes, they have experience that can be very useful in legal prosecutions, and they cannot use it because they're afraid because there's nobody to support them, right? We support those orphans in Syria. We have something called the Victims Fund. So families of those who died in Syrian detention centers, we support some of them. We have a beautiful family of a mother and 3 kids, and we've been taking care of them for a while. And it means a lot, because more than just helping them have better future, we protecting their stories, because it's gonna be used as evidence against the Syrian regime when we have the question about war crimes in Syria. And the more people we can protect, the more evidence we have against the regime, the sooner we can get the regime down. And all kind of contributions are valuable. Money is absolutely a good thing, but you can even do more than money. You can just like basically just go on Google. You know, everybody knows what Google is, and write there, how can I help Syria? You can ask Natalie, you can ask Moaz, you can actually, if you want to create value, there's many ways to do it. But if you contribute by money, then you make it easier for other people who already knows how to create value. We can make it faster. And there's a lot of people we can help by being next to them, by existing. Just by existing, we help a lot of people. So I put a lot of trust in you. I know you're great people. There's a reason for you to join this conversation, and just use this possibility to create some value. And thank you very much. And I go back to you, Abby.
Thank you, Omar. I would now like to pass it off to Sophia Saeed. She is the board chair of the Medina Institute and Mosque, and also the executive director of Interfaith Center of Arkansas.
Thank you so much, Abby, and assalamu alaikum to all of you. Peace to all of you. I hope you can hear me. My deepest gratitude to Omar and Moaz and Natalie and Abby and all of you who brought these life-changing stories to us, and who's doing this life-saving work that you're doing. So gratitude for doing what you're doing, and also for bringing these updates to us. That means a lot, and putting this program together in this blessed month of Ramadan. I saw the photos of Letters of Hope in the video that Natalie shared. Loved it. We have done that twice. The Letters of Hope campaign. I saw the faces of the kids and the letters actually that they did. And I'm telling you all, my community members who have joined, if you have not done that, please do it. It's a very enriching, fulfilling, and rewarding experience just to write letters to those children in Syria. There's so many reasons I'm honored to be a part of this event today. And one of them is that our core mission, one of the core mission at Medina is community building. And community is important to us, and community does not mean community in Arkansas only or within Medina boundaries only. Community means global community, and Syria is such an important part of our global community and also our local community. We have so many Syrian Americans here who are contributing to Central Arkansas community, who are contributing to our mosque, who are in our task forces, in our advisory councils, teaching in our Sunday school, giving us the gift of their talents, their skills, making Central Arkansas a better place every single day by their work. And we know from our Syrian American friends firsthand how they have suffered through this crisis, how they have lost their family members back in Syria, how they have lost their homes, their friends, their wealth. Their pain is not separated from us. We are deeply connected and interconnected. And secondly, it's such an honor to be a part of this program, is because social justice and equity is central to our mission at Medina. And it's also one of the fundamental principles in Quran, our holy book. And this is the month of Quran. Ramadan is the month of Quran. And it's time we go back to the guiding principles from our holy book and remind us of them and practice them by being more involved or engaged with this wonderful organization that you all heard about. One thing which deeply affected me as I was hearing Omar is Syrian youth. Omar talked about them, and I see them from my own personal connections and relationships, that Syrian youth is scattered all over the world, separated from their families due to war or other immigration restrictions. I was talking to my own teacher here at Sunday school last night, and thank you for joining the program, Lena. She is a young Syrian American 24 years old, who has been here in US for the last 5 years with her younger brother, separated from their parents. Both Lina and Muhammad have been separated from their parents for the last 5 years. And their 2 siblings who are in Syria trying to survive in the ruins of war as it is. And that's not the only story around us in our immediate circles. There are many, many more stories like that. So when we hear everything that we heard from you, and when we see the enormity of this issue, this gigantic weight, it can overwhelm us. And sometimes one thinks that, what can I do? What can I do as an individual in this crisis of this colossal magnitude? So I feel that here through the Syrian Emergency Task Force, we have an excellent opportunity to make a difference and help those people who are being helped, who are affected on ground and being helped directly by SETF. So all those people, my community members who have joined us today, whatever you choose to gift today, whether it's your money or skills or talent, know that it goes directly towards the kids in the Wisdom House or the Dawn's Women's Center or the bakeries which are baking bread for thousands of families, towards food and formula and medicine and flour and shipments of clothing and blankets, everything to support the Syrian community within this month of Ramadan. And we have only 10 days left. We're starting the 21st night right now and the last 10 powerful nights. So I want to end by reminding you of the story of Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, whose generosity and whose spirit, whose generous spirit to the first ever Muslim community in Mecca earned him the title, the epithet of Ghani, the generous one. And today, centuries later, he is still remembered by this great title, the generous one. So I wonder when I think about all of us, in the Sunnah of Sayyidina Usman and many other esteemed Sahaba Ikram al-Ajma'in, that if you were to be given a title for one of your gifts, what would it be? Would you be known for your kindness, your compassion, your generosity? What would it? None of us are here on this planet forever. So what strength you would want to be remembered by after you're gone from this world? What gift or quality you have that can become a blessing for our Syrian family? And whatever it is, you figure it out what it is. Whatever it is, you cultivate that gift and offer it in one way or another to Syrian Emergency Task Force. And I promise you, inshallah, your financial gift, your gift of skills and talent will become a source of sadaqah jariyah for you and your next generations to come. So Ramadan Mubarak to all of you from me and my team, and may God bless you all for the wonderful work you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I would now like to introduce teacher Rasha Al-Badri. She's community leader and an Islamic scholar in Central Arkansas.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be upon you and Ramadan Mubarak. I would like to thank Sophia so much, inspired me. We are beginning the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and this is a very, very blessed month. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that this is the month where the Quran was revealed, and it's the month of generosity and giving and patience and mercy. So thinking about the word of mercy, what is mercy? The Prophet said, "Man la yarham la yurham." Whoever does not show mercy to others will not be shown mercy. And the Prophet said, "Irhamu turhamu," which is have mercy upon others so that you will get mercy. One of the amazing sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is "La yablugh al-abdu haqiqat al-iman hatta yuhibbu lin-nas ma yuhibbu li-nafsihi," which is a person will not reach the reality or the true faith until he loves for the people, for others, what he loves for himself. So think about one day in Ramadan when we are fasting and you're tired, you just can't wait until sunset, and the food and the smell, the food in different kinds and drinks, and then your family, your safety, and think about that you have been today, this day, secure, healthy, you have food, and you have plenty of food and things to enjoy. But think about those kids or families or widows in Syria. When they are the basic needs they are missing. You can talk about food, they are missing. Security, they are missing. Health. And the Prophet said, whoever wakes up one day, man asbaha minkum aminan fi sirbih. So you wake up on one day when you are secure. Number two, mu'afan fi badani, if you're having a healthy body. And number three, you have food of one day, so you basically have all the needs, your needs met. Think about one day in Ramadan, if you are actually in Syria, if you go to the border and you just see and witness these families, and what do they have to eat? Even after listening to Omar and everyone, it's just like you don't even know whether at any time it might be bombed. So no security, no food, no medicines, no health, no nothing. Think about if you're actually there. And that is why I wanted to start with the hadith of the Prophet, the saying when he said, La yu'min ahadukum, which is you will not have the complete faith until you love for people what you actually love for yourself. In Syria, there has been war crimes, the internationally banned weapons, besiegement, ethnic cleansing, the worst of all of what I have heard is the torture to death. What is that? Well, it's a nightmare. The torture to death, imprisonment of men and women and children and elderly. Alhamdulillah that we have at least witnesses. We have Umar. We have I think I heard 50,000 photographs of the torture that in Syria. The torture is unbearable. So what are we going to do? And we are in the month of Ramadan, and the month of Ramadan where all our good deeds are multiplied, and the month of Ramadan where it is more likely that the night of Qadr, the night of power, is coming up very soon. Rewards multiplied, mercy of Allah descending, angels surrounding us, prayers are accepted, night prayers and fasting. We have 10 holy days, the most important days of the year. So I do believe that even this time, choosing this time, which is the beginning of the last 10 nights of Ramadan, is a blessing from God. So everyone can donate something, everyone can do something, whatever you can give. If you want to give, you can give to any part of the work that you want to help. You can give, be sure that every single dollar that you're giving, it will go to just amazing work. It might go to bakery, it might go to widows, it might go to helping orphans, it might go to education, it might go to the pharmacy, it might for the basic needs of those people. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us do something during these last 10 nights of Ramadan. And we need to remember that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that irhamu man fil ardi yarhamukum man fis sama, which should have mercy on the people on earth, so Allah in the sky can have mercy upon you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. And another saying of the Prophet I would like to share today is that of course everyone would like to be saved from hell and to be entered to Jannah. And the Prophet said clearly, whoever loves to be saved from the fire and enter to paradise should die with the belief in Allah and the last day, and should treat people in the way he wishes people to treat him. يحب أن يأتي إلى الناس الذي يحب أن يؤتى إليه, which is do for others what you love for yourself, and treat the people in the way that you wish to be treated by them. So everyone wants safety, so please help those people feel safe. Everyone wants security, health, food, drinks. Please help those people who have suffered a lot beyond imagination. Inshallah, we can inshallah help, donate, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our donations. And just finally, I would like to say one thing. Even by giving to the Syrian Emergency Task Force, SETF, you're not only supporting their work, you are also supporting the advocacy work, how they are raising awareness, showing the world the truth about what's happening in Syria. So this killing of our brothers and sisters can come to an end. May Allah help us all. Thank you for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Sister Rasha. And I wanted to introduce my mother who's joined us here today. And I think she just wanted to give some brief remarks, if that's okay, Mom, please.
I will try. I've been crying since we started. So I'm sorry, I'll do my best. But if I cannot continue, please forgive me. So, Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Firstly, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart that you came and you take time of your day to watch this and learn about Syria. I came from this community, Arkansas. As I known as Sister Muna, I was former teacher in Huda Academy, and it means so much to me that you are all here. And so I left Syria decades ago with my husband and my children. And long before the revolution and the horrific crimes that have been happening today that you heard about, I left because corruption and oppression was already evident. And I did not want to raise my children in a very toxic environment that the Assad regime had so deeply rooted in the system. I want my children to be leaders, not victims. And I wish for all the children all over the world who are living at the mercy of those cruel tyrants like Assad to be leaders. And the work of the Syrian Emergency Task Force is providing a beacon of hope for children who otherwise would have their future and education stripped from them. And your money that you will give to this organization, and I know this personally, and based on what I witnessed, that your money will go for, as Sister Rasha said, for education, for orphans, for widows, for victims of these horrific crimes, and work to bring justice to Syria. And the most important is to stop the killing that is going today. Please, please give from your heart. Anything you can give, and Allah will give you back and will make a big difference for the people there and for you in the eyes of God. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sorry, it's so hard for me to talk about Syria. It's so emotional. I hold myself not to cry, but thank you for listening to me. I hope I did something that helped you. Jazakum Allah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wayakum, Mama, that was amazing. And I know it's hard. And thank you for willing to do this. I wanted to just say for everyone that's on here on the call, it means so much for you to be on. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount of people. Just a few people can make a big difference.